Are you lost? Or are you looking for something? Walking around here, it's dangerous. This is not recommended for everybody. Kiddos can come along, but they're gonna only have more questions than answers. But that's part of this journey. Enter if you dare. My name is Dakota Frandsen, and this is Specialist of the Strange Radio Show, where we go into various topics of the unknown and bring them to life. And maybe, just maybe, we'll discover something new along the way. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. You're not going to want to miss this.
Hey everyone, Dakota Frandsen here, Specialist of the Strange. I just wanted to come with you real quick about potentially doing your own podcast. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? Maybe you got a lot of questions like, how do I record? How do I get my show into all these apps that are out there? How can I make money? There are probably several thousand other questions about getting this show off the ground that you have been formulating and communicating in your mind. And I'm here to tell you that there is a very simple answer to this. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing your show. And best of all, it is 100% free. Get all the perks from the other guys without having to pay for subscription fees. And best of all, it is easy. And in fact, Anchor can match you up with sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast right now, which means you can get paid doing what you love. Isn't that the fucking dream, my friends? In fact, that's actually what I'm trying to do right now by reading this ad for you. It is amazing. It helps ease the process for guests, putting on music, whatever you want to do. So if you want to start your podcast, make some money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and several other fabulous people already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. And I cannot wait to hear you on the air.
Hey y'all. Yeah, this episode's getting to be a little late in getting put out there, but unfortunately, matters that are currently going on in the world are emphasizing the need for this discussion. So yes, what I'm about to go through, talk about on this episode, is it's going to be a little bit of a soapbox episode. Because these are matters that really need to be discussed. If you go into my Reddit page, you could probably find a recent question I posted. And it's sort of a little social experiment in response to the George Floyd protests/riots. In it, I asked that, without revealing the specific attributes that contribute, and I apologize if my stutter gets in the way of this. This is a little bit of a stressful topic for me, and you'll understand here soon. Anyway, with the question I posted was, without revealing the specific attributes that contribute to other people's perception of you, what are assumptions often made towards you before people actually take the time to get to know you? Now, there's a lot of people who get pissed off at those of us who go to say all lives matter. And I'm agreeing with that statement, but not to degrade the recent Black Lives Matter, I guess, for lack of a better word, propaganda. Because unfortunately, in the midst of all this insanity, there's a repeating pattern that's unfolding that unfortunately the media is choosing to focus on. Now, I don't know about some of you. I do know that some of you who listen to my regular podcasts and who have been following me for some time have mentioned in the past that you live in some of the areas that are being hit hardest right now. And I want to say to you that I honestly hope that you're okay. I hope that you and your loved ones are staying safe in this crazy ass time. Now, if you happen to know any of the kids out there, say that term loosely because some of these assholes are roughly my age, but these Antifa punks that are escalating the protests into full-blown riots. If any of you are listening, you're a bunch of punk asses. And if you try to falsify reports with local police departments because I offended your fucking feelings, this episode's going to be shown as evidence. And yes, even if you try to file things anonymously, you can still be tracked. And of course, there's probably one of you losers out there that'll try to challenge it and put in a sniping call. Well, come and get me, you chicken shits. Because it's shit like that that proves the point I'm going to make. Yes, I do have close affiliations with local law enforcement agencies. It is because that I have family members. I've grown up around it. I knew more about police procedure than most freaking veterans on the force before I was even able to drive a car. You know, unfortunately, those of you who know my backstory saw the best of both worlds situation, and it seemed like the right thing to do was to follow the path that would help me help more people. Now, and I'm going to admit, there's some assholes out there. You're going to find assholes in every situation you can. In any profession, any social situation, any of it. You're going to find assholes out there. Like the officers who are responsible for George Floyd's death. Now, even, how can I say this? the situation's fucked up. Situation did not need to go as far as it did. That was my understanding. George Floyd's a bigger guy, and sounded like he had some problems. Yes, I'm not ignoring that. I'm not using that to justify what happened to him. It's fucked up. And yeah, there's been a couple people who have tried to say, well, Dakota medical examiners say that he had recent meth use. Okay? He was a big guy. When you really look at the videos, he was a bigger guy. He didn't look like he was exactly, my size. I'm 6'7", 350 pounds. I can hold my own in a fight if I've ever put in a situation. I've been put in that situation and come out victorious, obviously. But if he was methed up in that moment, almost sounds like I'm gonna slur Mike Tyson. He was methed up. No, I guess it works too. If he was under the influence of methamphetamines, that officer wouldn't have had a chance. And how it unfolded, that's bullshit. The officer clearly knew what he was doing. He showed no remorse. And if you read his body language in the video, and I sat down and watched it, if you read his body language, he was completely dissociating himself from the people that were watching him. He was looking at him like, why are you giving me that look? Are you stupid? Are you wanting some of this? And unfortunately, in situations like that, and this is something that pisses off some of my law enforcement contacts when I say this, but unfortunately, the stigma around law enforcement due to these situations makes it so they rely mostly on each other because they can't trust the public. Because of the assholes like Derek Chauvin, or however his last name is pronounced. Unfortunately, it becomes a very tight-knit situation to where they might be hesitant to do the right thing. And no, I'm not saying that as an excuse. This is an analysis of the situation. And unfortunately, what a lot of people don't seem to realize is that this type of mentality has been sitting with us for quite some time. There was a video of a gentleman who attributed the systemic racism to 1400s Roman Catholic Church. That it was white Christians that declared they could take on the world, basically. And that mentality that we shifted, that our ancestors shifted into, to where they were the top dog. They were undefeatable. They were the big dogs, the big gun, the big kahunas. And unfortunately, there's two ways that mentalities like that can transfer. In a way, there's three major ways when you really think about it. There's parent teaching child, child mimicking parent, child being formatted genetically by parent. First one, parent teaching child, self-explanatory. The parents teach this to their kids. Now, example number 2. Child mimics parents. Monkey see, monkey do. Children look to adult figures in their life to try to figure out how they're supposed to respond to social situations. It's the same processes, the same mental capacities that make for both embarrassing situations when you realize you're swearing too much around your kid when they start copying the road rage from their baby seat. The same thing that leads to that leads to children of abusive paternal relationships think it's okay for them to assault others. Then there's the third option. It's a little bit harder to prove, but it's been documented that it is the case that sometimes certain mental attributes contribute to cranial abnormalities, I guess, for lack of a better term. Basically, the shit that our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents went through causes our brains to be formatted differently from birth in response to the traumas that they faced. Basically, essentially what they're saying is that a child who was conceived after a parent experiences an episode, is diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, for example, the physical changes that happen when someone is diagnosed with depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, borderline personality disorder, the physical changes that have been actually documented in response to mental illnesses on the victims of whatever situations that put that mentality in their head. Those same changes are later passed on to the children, possibly as a survival response. It could very well be a mechanic that has existed within mankind before mankind looked even remotely close to how we do now. It could be a trick of DNA in order to help give the child the best odds of survival by mimicking what it took for the parent to survive to the point they were able to reproduce. All this really is saying is that change is not going to happen overnight. There's going to come a time where this shit calms down and things are going to be going back to normal. There's going to be a time once the world is no longer freaking out about coronavirus, for example, where the same patterns that led to the pollution that we all became accustomed to has seemingly vanished practically within a few weeks' time. And I'm talking about how dolphins started returning to the canals in Venice, how certain mountain skylines have been visible in countries that have long been polluted. I'm talking about these situations. It's not going to take long for the patterns in which made the beauties of nature and vacate the premises return. Because we absolutely suck at sticking with a game plan. Now, the reason the question I posted on Reddit users, and I was hoping to get a little bit better response before I recorded this episode, but unfortunately that was not the case. The point of it was to try to get people to be more sympathetic about why certain things, certain people behave the way they do. When it comes to paranormal circles, this is something that I've been dealing with for quite some time because there's enough overlap between religious practices and supernatural folklore nowadays that if you try to say something that, even though it validates that certain miracles from religious texts actually took place, they just may have been misconstrued, or there might have actually been something else going on. Religious fanatics want to stick with the make-believe story. And it's not really their fault. Religion, even UFOs, belief in UFOs, have actually been found to affect certain parts of the mind in which causes these responses to be akin to addiction. People can't give up these ideals that they have in their minds. They become addicted to that mindset, and it takes a fucking miracle and willpower beyond most people's comprehension nowadays in order to overcome it. This is for those of you who've been following my journey for a while now, there is a book I've been working on that kind of pointed this out to me, and with all this mess going on circulating the George Floyd protests, it kind of got me thinking. And we're going to take a quick commercial break here, but there's also two ladies in my life that drive this point forward more. And before any of you start assuming that, start trying to jump down my throat, listen through everything before you crucify me. There's a point where I'm going to wrap all of this up. And that's what I'm going to talk about a bit more after the commercial break. These are crazy times indeed. I saw a post from, I believe it was actually from the actress Jennifer Love Hewitt, that pointed out maybe 2020 is supposed to be the year for people. The year that helps us wake up. That helps us find the right anger, the right motivation, the right reasons to step up and make a change. Now, for these Antifa guys, I genuinely want to believe that that's what they want to accomplish. A change. I may not necessarily agree with their methods or their message, but all in all, at the end of the day, there's still people trying to, I'm hoping at least, that there's still people just trying to make sense of our crazy world. Sorry, my Alexa device seemed to think that I was trying to talk to her. At the end of the day, people are just people. We all have our backstories. We're all a little funny looking. But at the end of the day, people are just people. And true change will not come unless we take a moment to see that. Before the commercial break, I mentioned that there's two ladies in my life that Well, to be honest, there's more than these two, but these two had the biggest influence on the matter. These two helped me see that a bit better. The first happens to be my younger cousin. She's 13 years old. Fun age, right? She's I was just gonna say it like this. Her father was actually Jamaican. He was deported from the country due to criminal activity. It's my understanding that he was actually a weapons smuggler for major cartels. Now, for my cousin, she's honestly a beautiful child. That olive-toned skin, that big old poofy curly hair that her own mother tries to slice up. If I had to give a description of what she looks like, the best I can offer is that when she grows up, I honestly see her looking a lot like Tessa Mae Thompson, but with big old fro-like hair. Since this kid was little, she's dealt with racist comments, and she seemed to be hold her head pretty high in regards to it. It brought up a lot of interesting points. There was an incident when she was little where a little girl came up and, pardon my language, called her nothing but a nigger. Later discussions revealed that the little girl that said this, was told by her father, a Hispanic male, I'm not trying to poke any racial stereotypes here. I'm setting up the situation as it happened. She was told to say this by her father. Now, the thing that confused my cousin is that this little girl and her had the same complexion. And she still said that. And to this day, she still keeps getting those comments, but amazingly holds her head high. And unfortunately, she's given no choice in societal requirements. She's a lot like a woman I met when I was in Paris. She was in my travel group. Another beautiful woman, darker complexion. Near our hotel, there was actually like a little shopping mall. And we would all go down there, and towards the end of the day, I really need to get an on-air sign. Sorry about that. But anyway, this woman I met while I was in Paris, like I said, beautiful woman. As we were going through the shopping mall, we were just minding our own business. We're looking through everything, seeing what looked good for that night. And there was a security guard there. And I'm like, alright, no big deal. He was And he would eyeball her, constantly keeping an eye, glances over. And it wasn't giving her bedroom eyes, no. He was watching to make sure, see if she was stealing anything. And the security guard had a darker complexion than her. So there's, yeah, these may seem like they're one-off examples, but it points to a fact that I'm going to get to later on. The next major young lady that influenced the content of this episode happens to be the woman I'm currently seeing. Now, she's Greek-Italian in ancestry. She has the same complexion as me, but even though she and I, it's the situation is we've been in a long distance relationship. We've known each other for about 3 going on 4 years now. We dated for about 2 years collectively. We dated for about 8 months. We broke up for about 1.5 years and got back together we're coming up on the end. I think we just passed the anniversary when we got back together. Shit. Oh, it's okay. Anyway. My girlfriend, the situation is long distance, and even though she honestly knows more about me than my own parents do at this point, but and she's trusted me with some very sensitive information. I don't want to dig too much into it, other than what's necessary to make the point here. I have some time. Sorry. Ooh. Throat's dry. I have some time off from my day job coming up. And I thought that it would be perfect time for me to fly out and go see her in person. And also maybe look into finding a place closer to her. And she's afraid to see me. When we first started dating, she warned me that she had issues with other guys abusing her. And when she found out that I wasn't kidding about my size, it scared the hell out of her. She admitted to me that she was afraid that because of how big I am, if I were to try to hurt her, she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to fight back. She wouldn't be able to get away. And apparently I've had shitty timing with revealing that I'm coming for a visit, but it's been a little tense because apparently she still has that fear. I honestly thought it was something that we got past, but apparently not. Unfortunately, all things considered, the only way to really ease that fear is to show up in person, prove myself. Unfortunately, my own mother thinks that she's going to turn into one of those girls that tries to falsify sexual assault claims and get me thrown in prison. Well, I don't want to believe that about her. She's a lot like me. Even one of my best friends said that she's basically a girl version of me. I'm honestly at a loss for what else to do here. It feels like I'm not doing enough to help her overcome that. Even though I know the story, I want to be able to do more, you know? And I think that in response to all these protests, that's a mentality a lot of people are coming for in this world right now. We realize that change needs to happen. This thing's been boiling up for generations, so it's going to be a long time before anything can be truly done to affect change. And unfortunately, these are matters that everybody faces. We had the Me Too movements to try to help inspire victims of sexual assault come out about their excuser. We had the Black Lives Matter to try to shift the focus away from police brutality situations. And honestly, I think there's a lot more there involving overturning the entire system to fix the problem. But it also emphasizes a point that I try to make with every episode. To try to show kindness and understanding as much as you can. To try to empathize as much as you can with your fellow human beings, because we all have to experience this life. We all have to be there for one another. And yeah, some of you might try to say, oh, Dakota, you had weird shit helping you out. And yeah, that's true, but maybe that's the point why. And truth, what a lot of people don't really seem to realize is that if we get past this shit to where we all truly start working together, we may be able to advance humanity beyond our wildest dreams. The repression of any individual group inhibits us all. Failure to acknowledge the facts as they are inhibits us all. The failure to accept new information inhibits us all. So try to remember that as we can go about our lives. Change is coming. And it's going to be a rough road. But beautiful things are on the horizon, my friends. So be kind to one another.
friends from Spotify.
Once again, she is trying to steal the show. That certainly killed the emotional level. Good comic relief, my God. Ugh, it's not cool seeing a big man cry. Anyway, but let's just try to remember that. Be kind to one another, people, but don't be afraid to stand up for yourself and for your fellow human being. They try to teach in schools that fighting is bad, but unfortunately, sometimes it becomes the only option to affect change. Sometimes it's the only thing that gets people to see just how bad things truly are. That fucking ringtone. So do your best to hear the stories of others, especially the ones you love. Because perhaps if we took time, as a woman once told me, perhaps if we all took the time to try to truly understand one another, the world could become a better place. And that's the note I want to leave this episode on. I'll catch with y'all next week. Give you some updates on certain things going down, and we'll see what happens. You all take care now, alright? Much love.